Hello, historians. Here is your Thinking Thursday bell ringer for Thursday, September 12th. Why was the Constitution written and where was it written? Today we are going to be covering notes 4 in your packet, which looks like this, Examining the Constitution. So last week we talked about the Articles of Confederation, the first attempt at government here in the United States, which was unsuccessful. The Articles of Confederation didn't make a very strong federal government, and soon it was realized that a new document would need to be written, or at least some revisions. Monday, we talked about the writing of the Constitution, where it was written in Philadelphia, and some of the key players like George Washington and James Madison, along with the 7 guiding principles that helped ground the writers of the Constitution to their beliefs. Today, we're going to look at the document. So the different parts of the document in our U.S. Constitution are made up of 3 parts: the preamble, the articles, and the amendments. So let's start with the preamble. The preamble is the introduction. It is where the writers of the Constitution told exactly what they were trying to achieve as they wrote this new government in the United States Constitution. The preamble starts with a famous "We the People," and then it goes on to say why they were writing the document and what they were trying to achieve, like a more perfect union, more perfect than that under the Articles of Confederation. Establishing justice, which means to make sure we have fairness in our country. To ensure domestic tranquility, which just means peace here at home. Providing for the common defense, which means to defend our country, like with the military. To promote the general welfare, which means that they had the goal of creating a country where all people could succeed and have a good life. And finally, to secure the blessings of liberty, which means freedom, to ourselves and our posterity. That fancy word means future generations. So the preamble is the first part, and it's pretty short. It's just like an introduction and an essay. The second part of the Constitution is called the Articles. It's the biggest part of the document, the longest part of the document. It's the main body, and it sets up the framework for our government. So for example, the first part of the Articles, the first article, which is just a fancy word for section, sets up the legislative branch. That's our Congress, and that is the branch that makes the laws. The second branch of government is the executive branch, and that is where the president exists, and that the power of that branch is to enforce the laws that the Congress passes. The judicial branch is the third and final branch of our government, and that branch has the responsibility to interpret laws. So those first 3 articles make up the 3 branches of our government. And then the articles go on to discuss the relations among the states, saying that states must respect each other's laws. If you pass over the border into a different state, you must follow the laws in that state. Number 5 is that the Constitution can be amended or changed. So they set up how to do that, and it certainly isn't easy. They felt it needed to be something very important that a majority of people agreed to before the Constitution could be changed. The 6th article is that the Constitution is the highest law of the land. If we ever have any questions about what's going on in our country or what should happen in our country, we should refer to the Constitution. And then the 7th and final article was just where the writers decided how this new document would become the official Constitution for our country. And they decided 9 of 13 states would have to agree, and then it would become official. All right, so we have the preamble, then we have the articles, and finally, the third and last part of the Constitution is called the amendments. The amendments are changes made to the Constitution, which make it a kind of living document. It's always changing and morphing and developing. 2 ways to change the amendment. Number 1 is that a 2/3 vote in Congress can change or add to our Constitution. Another way would be if the states sent representatives to a convention to discuss a change to our Constitution and 3/4 of them agreed. The first 10 amendments to our Constitution, the first 10 changes, are known as the Bill of Rights, this document right here. And the Bill of Rights was written almost immediately after the Constitution was ratified. So in 1791, already 10 amendments were made. And they're very important. They list the rights of citizens and states. For example, freedom of speech is one of the first 10 amendments. In terms of how many changes have been made over time, 17 more were added since the first 10, making it a total of 27. So just 17 changes have been made since 1791. The most recent being the age to vote, which is 18, and that was established in 1971. Just a little fun fact for you. Today in class, I handed out vocabulary flashcards for our first quiz, which is scheduled shortly. So please make sure that you are doing your vocabulary flashcards and using them to test yourself before quiz number 1, which covers notes 2 through 5. Have a wonderful day, historians!